A sit down between two of the world's most powerful spies on neutral territory and exotic foreign capital.
It certainly sounds like the stuff of Cold War espionage thrillers, but it really did take place. It happened yesterday in Turkey, and our chief White House correspondent James Rosen is joining us now from, I guess, a wintry North Lawn, sporting some layers there, James. But good afternoon. As always, great to have you in. What can you tell us about this meeting that was supposed to be secret, but then now, again, all of us know all about it?
Good afternoon. U.S. officials have been very tight-lipped about the contents of this meeting. This was a meeting in Ankara, the cosmopolitan capital of Turkey. It brought together Sergei Narishkin, head of Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, and William J. Burns, director of the Central Intelligence Agency and formerly America's ambassador to Russia. As we mentioned, senior U.S. officials not saying too much about the meeting, but they did say the CIA director delivered to his Russian counterpart a message about the consequences of any use of nuclear weapons by Russia in Ukraine. And they also discussed possible exchanges of prisoners, including WNBA star Brittany Griner, who was recently transferred to a penal colony inside Russia. As a former U.S. ambassador in Moscow and former Deputy Secretary of State, Bill Burns may have logged more FaceTime with Russian President Vladimir Putin than any other living American, except perhaps Henry Kissinger. Sergei Narishkin, for his part, seen at this Kremlin photo at far right, has led Russia's premier spy agency for 6 years. Prior to that, he served as chief of staff at the Kremlin and chair of the Russian Duma. It was Narishkin who was seen in an official Kremlin video released just a few days before the start of the Ukraine war, being dressed down by President Putin in a humiliating way, the Russian president snapping at Narishkin for not speaking directly and couching his statements in conditional terms. The Burns-Narishkin session came on the same day that President Biden met with his Chinese counterpart, Chinese President Xi Jinping, in Bali, Indonesia, after which Mr. Biden told reporters that he and Xi Jinping agreed that any use of nuclear weapons by Russia in the Ukrainian theater would be, quote, unacceptable. Bianca and John.
James Rosen, live at the White House. Thank you, James.
All right, let's welcome in now Fred Fleitz. He's a senior fellow at the American First Policy Institute. He's also a retired CIA analyst. Fred, great to see you and great to have you here.
Yes.
With Bianca and I on set. All right, let's talk about this meeting in Ankara, Turkey. In some ways, uncomfortable to hear this discussion about nuclear weapons, but also I guess we should be at least a little encouraged that these conversations are taking place.
Well, I think that's right, but this was the first high-level meeting since the war began. And I got to say, it's just dumbfounding that this kind of thing is happening. We haven't seen American officials going to China either. This is the first meeting that Biden had with the Chinese president. We heard recently that the Chinese ambassador to the United States, who just went back, never got a high-level meeting with a Biden official. So I'm glad Burns is meeting with his Russian counterpart. We know that the Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State are not doing that. Even when times are tough, there have to be these types of interactions. And I have to say, this is just national security malpractice. I don't know what's going on at the National Security Council and the State Department.
And Fred, I mean, this, as you mentioned, the highest-ranking U.S. to Russia face-to-face since the conflict, the war began. Again, it happened in Turkey. NATO says that they are not involved at all. The EU is not involved at all. What do you think, since Biden administration, the U.S. asked for this meeting, what do you think Burns' objective was? What do you think the outcome was that he wanted?
Well, first of all, Burns was a great choice. He speaks Russian. The Russians trust him. They have much more respect for him than they do for other Biden officials. And I've been calling for a long time, including on this program, that he should have been sent to Moscow right after the conflict broke out to discuss this issue. I think he was very blunt with them about where the war isn't going anywhere. There can't be the use of nuclear weapons. We have to find a way to wind this down. We have to find a way to get to a ceasefire. I mean, there aren't many interlocutors in this administration they could send. He's probably the best one.
We saw President Biden. He's had a global stage this week down in Bali, and he took the opportunity, Fred, to criticize Republicans on foreign soil. He also talked a little bit about women's rights in Afghanistan, but this comes as we see the first execution happening in Iran. Some 1,500 protesters have been given or could potentially get the death sentence following the death and the protest of Masha Amini. You look at the Biden administration, they have been pretty quiet about this. Why is their record when it comes to women's rights on a global stage been so abysmal?
This is one of the most serious issues of human rights, of violations of human rights we've had in many, many years. The Biden administration doesn't want to speak out against it because it's trying to get a nuclear deal, a terrible nuclear deal that will be worse than Obama's deal. And if you look at the national security strategy, it talks about protests in Iran very, very mildly, doesn't mention women. It doesn't mention that women are being persecuted in these protests. And I'm worried that now that the election's over, there will be a new push to get a nuclear deal.
Yeah, you just wonder how much they're willing to give up, including, just what seems so universally appalling is what's happening to these women in Iran. That's what they're willing to sacrifice for a potential Iran deal, which you just said, Fred, is a bad deal. Why?
The crackdown has accelerated. There were attacks on young people on the subway system in Tehran. It's really, really getting brutal right now. I think so much of it has to be that Trump pulled out of the nuclear deal. This is Obama's deal. We have to get back into it. It really is irrational. The Iranians have been so demanding. They've pushed for so many unreasonable requests, but still the Biden people won't give up on a deal.
I think when we hear about these protests in Iran, Fred, what's striking is that this may not have happened 5 years ago. These young women are risking literally their lives. They may be put to death, and they're willing to do it now at this point in our time, like we've never seen before.
There's been a lot of pent-up frustration in this country for a long time. We saw this during the Obama administration with the enormous protests after the 2015 election of Ahmadinejad, the fraudulent presidential election. They've been happening more and more. The economic situation is driving this right now, and one reason why the Iranian regime is in trouble, why they're getting these protests, is the over 1,000 sanctions placed on Iran by President Trump, many of which are still in place.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Fred, we look forward to talking to you again, of course, in the future. Great to have you with us here on set. Always a pleasure.
Good to be here.
No crooked establishment.
None of that twisting the
truth.
No talking down to me.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
Don't tell me how to think.
I trust Newsmax.
Newsmax.
They don't tell me how to think.
They let
me decide.
Newsmax.
Real news
For real people.